The process is complex and it can be lengthy. So get help to walk through that process. The proof is in the pudding. I think you guys have helped a lot of other clients and such as myself. So, it can work. The second advice I would have is take the leap. Get some help if you need to smooth out the bumps, in the process. Make the change because, being comfortable, change will never happen.
Patrick Findaro here, founding partner at Visa Franchise. We have a special guest, former client, Aleem Haji, who recently made the move from Canada to Texas. No more winters in Canada. At least, no more full winters, and he obviously go visit friends and family there. But Aleem, thanks for joining today.
Thank you for having me.
So Aleem, you made the move like many people probably watching this, whether it's in greater Toronto area or throughout Canada, thinking about making the move to the E-2 visa with the E-2 visa, whether through a franchise, their own business. But Aleem, I'd love to hear, a little bit about yourself, and you're now a two-time immigrant. I'd love to hear, what motivated your family to make that initial move to Canada and then afterwards to the States now.
Hey, you want to come to the US, get the E-2 visa, L1, or straight out a green card? We've been doing this for the past 10 years, and we wrote a book. It's called Own Your American Dream. What is special about this book is that we went back and have spoken to 21 successful applicants who opened up their businesses here and who are continuing to live the American dream. Hear it from them, because they talk about their fears, their mental state, what went wrong, what went right. The entire blueprint is there. You could just buy the book right here. You can just read it and make up your mind. Continue your video.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I originally migrated to Canada back in, late 80s. My background is I was born in Tanzania. Both my parents as well as my grandparents, they were all from East Africa, Tanzania. What prompted us to really move from Tanzania to Canada, I lost my dad at a fairly young age. And, most of my uncles and aunts, they had already migrated to Canada back in the early 70s. So all of our families, they were already in Canada. And so, it was only natural that, for them to sponsor us to move over to Canada and, allow for us to, go through schooling and, for my mom to work as well. So that was what essentially prompted us to migrate to Canada. In terms of, what prompted me to start going down the path of looking at pursuing an E-2 visa, essentially, I think I was in our phase of life where, we were looking for lifestyle changes as well as, career changes as well. And I started looking at, different countries and, obviously US was a natural fit with all the different opportunities US has to offer. So, from there, I started looking at different visa options and, obviously settled on looking at E-2 visa. But I would say essentially that's what prompted, for me to, look at, opportunities, in the US and, finding a way to, making my way to pursuing an E-2 visa.
And why the leap into entrepreneurship for you and your wife? Because you both had great careers. I know when we first connected, you had done some work at Tim Hortons. My brother Jack and business partner used to work there at Restaurant Brands International, and you've worked with all different types of clients. And you had a pretty nice. I mean, you still have a pretty nice career. Why not look for a job in Texas and work for a big corporation in Texas instead of starting your own franchise business?
Yeah, definitely. That was something that was an option that was available. But I think, at the end of the day, both, Norman and I were looking for ways to, provide service to others. And, one way that, that would enable us to do that was through, finding a franchise that allowed us to do that. Both of us had, pastoral roles in the past. Especially during COVID, and we were able to help a lot of seniors in seniors' homes, and that really resonated with both of us. Interesting story. Both Norman and I had actually talked about owning such a franchise in serving specifically in the senior community back in my university days. Actually, I have
Oh
a vivid
wow.
memory of, yeah. So I have a vivid memory of actually us walking, on campus many years ago, and us actually having that discussion. So now, after all these many years, finally being here. I think what I would say is, my career path has definitely prepared me to be able to run such a franchise. And similar to Norman, I think her background and her career in food and nutrition allows her to contribute to the franchise as well.
How did you discover the space back in college? Like, were you just spending a lot of time with, great aunts, uncles, grandparents, and you saw kind of the need, or and took a, enjoyed obviously spending time with them and learning from them?
No, that's a great question. I think Patrick, going back to even in Tanzania, we had this culture of service, providing voluntary service to the elderly. And so even at a very young age, I was accompanying some adults to go to senior homes, and providing service to them. So it was ingrained in me, and same with Norman. From since we were kids. So service and volunteering and providing, being in service to others, it's been something that's been quite common throughout our lives. So I wouldn't say there was one aha moment to say, okay, this is what we wanted to do, but being in that space and over the years, it was definitely natural to say, think about how can we ideally provide for our family as well as be able to serve others. And in being now that we are here, it definitely allows us to do that.
And then remind me, how did we first connect? I think it's been maybe a year, almost a year and a half. But how did you first come across Visa Franchise?
Yeah, it was through one of your YouTube videos. I was already
Very
doing my
cool.
research in terms of how to go about pursuing getting an E2 visa, and then came across your channel, and started watching all the great content that you have, and that's how we connected. If I do recall correctly, I think after I watched your video, I was able to contact you, and we were able to get on a half an hour call to discuss further. I can definitely talk about that half an hour call that we were on, and how impactful that was for me, because I think it really allowed me to make my decision in terms of going and procuring your services specifically. And if I recall correctly, I think some of the things that you were able to demonstrate in that half an hour call, where definitely the your competencies your team has in helping clients such as myself in walking through that process. So even in that short period of time, I think you were able to really demonstrate that you were able to not only help clients to pursue E2 visas, but also to really investigate what sort of franchises that we would want. So I would say that that half an hour call was definitely a milestone for myself in terms of making my decision and moving forward.
Thanks, Salim. And it wasn't always like that. Like 8 years back, we were just doing the franchise search analysis. Then we bring in the business plan writer, then the attorney, where we've really tried to bring as much in house as possible, and then bring in the experts, but really try to have it continuous. Where you met Laura back, Franco back, having every team member kind of fits into the part of the puzzle, so you have a smooth passage to the U.S. because a lot of things can go right, and a lot of things can go wrong with this move, and with securing the visa and business, of course.
Yes, no, definitely. I think that goes without saying. I think your team was very integral in really holding my hand and our family's hands to kind of walk through the whole process. You mentioned Laura. I think she was amazing, to kind of walk us through that process, and always doing the regular touch points. I think the overall process is can be complex, can be lengthy, but working alongside your team makes that quite efficient, and definitely productive to go through the overall process.
And then Aleem, tell me, because I remember in talking to Laura that, the industry was pretty much decided, and you've confirmed that today. And then you ended up deciding to invest in Assistant Hands. We've had other clients invest in that brand, but you also talked to other franchise brands, particularly in the in-home care space. What made you comfortable to pursue and then acquire a license to open up Assisting Hands in the Dallas Fort Worth area?
That's a great question, Patrick. So I think definitely your team was integral in us investigating the different options, and we looked at several franchises offering very similar type of services. What differentiated Assisting Hands was definitely the ethical framework and values in how they go about executing providing those services. And I would say that was definitely one of the key areas that we looked at in making our decision to go with the specific franchise. At the end of the day, the idea is that these franchises provide home care services to seniors, and in providing that service, you want to do it in a manner that's dignified to the senior community, as well as those that have some disabilities. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you provide that service in a dignified manner, that they can still stay in their homes and feel that they're being taken care of. So I would definitely say it's the ethical framework and the values that that's definitely one thing that drew me to Assisting Hands. And secondly, I would say the leadership team there, along with all the franchise owners, all the caregivers, they all operate in a manner where it's a family, and they treat their franchise owners as family. And in fact, they have an acronym called FOFO, Family of Franchise Owners. And they don't just say it; they actually live it.
They
So
live it.
yeah, and that became loud and clear through all my interactions with all the individuals at Assisting Hands. So definitely that helped us to make our decision.
I definitely have a similar perception. I've probably spoken to, I don't know, at least 10 people in the organization, whether it's at the headquarters or franchisees. And, it's also privately held, which I think there's something special to that. And that, it's well aligned with, that you sign a franchise agreement for 10 years and they're not looking to sell it in 2 years. They're looking to be in the trenches with you, growing this and making better operational efficiencies throughout the many years to come. What would you say would be some of the problems or challenges, surprises that occurred, whether it's related to the visa process, the investment, or just making the actual, physical move for you, your wife, and your three younger kids?
Sure. I think a couple of things come to mind. The first one is, the overall process of, going through, obtaining the E-2 visa. I think, there are many different steps in the process, and the process can be lengthy. But my earlier comment about working with an organization like yourself, Visa Franchise, and I think really organizing in how you go about collecting all the documentations, how you do your application, how you go about preparing for interviews, all that I think helps to really be organized in submitting your application. So I think it was a surprise that it took long, but I would say I would not compromise on the preparation time that was put into the whole process, because I think the more you prepare, the better your chances of actually getting approved for the E-2 visa. So I think because of all that preparation, it was very smooth process once we went through our interviews and got our E-2 approved. The second thing I would say is doing the actual move itself. Moving. We were trying to time it with the beginning of school here in Dallas. And we were able to do that, but I think we were about a week before starting school that when we were able to move here. So there was a bit of a rush, but getting the vaccinations done, for the kids so they could actually start the schools. But I think we were been blessed in in great schools, and we were able to overcome that obstacle as well.
What do your kids say about the school? Go on, sorry.
What was the last part? No, I was going to say. Lastly, I would say, I think one thing that people might overlook is, looking at your credit history. For example, we have a great credit history in Canada. Obviously, I've built it over many years. But when you come to the U.S., you almost starting from scratch. So, being proactive in managing that is something I would definitely recommend those that are, potentially looking at, making a similar move. So I would say those are the three things I would say. Sorry, you had a question about the
Well,
schools?
the third one, this keeps coming up with our former clients. So we are going to launch a product to help you improve your EIN credit.
Yes.
And so that's on the business level, but also on the personal level, because yeah, you start really low and there's a lot, the whole infrastructure in the US is tied to your credit score. So whether you're renting a house, buying a house, so that's something that we'll be working on based on feedback like you're providing. But I was just curious, how do your kids like the schools? How is it different than in the Toronto area?
The schools are great. I think one thing that's been very clear is that the amount of resources that are put into schools. Whether it's sports, music, simple things like having school nurses, guidance counselors. I would say there's a lot of resources being invested in the kids' education, and that's been very apparent. I think. Once upon a time, I think we had all those things in Canadian schools, but over the years, I would say it's degraded, where services have been removed, and people get used to the new norm, right? Coming here, you see what the difference is, and I would say the major difference is definitely just the amount of resources being dedicated, whether it's through teachers, sports facilities, their auditoriums, and it's done at a mass scale. And I think that was something that was very clear to the kids as well when they toured the school. They realized why one of the reasons why we were making this move was for their education as well. And I think they will be well served in going to school here for sure.
One thing that's come up is also just like the teacher student ratio, that from what I understand, it's like much worse in many parts of Canada compared to many of the states in the US.
Yeah, that is definitely, I can confidently say that is definitely a factor. And having those ratios misaligned, coming from Canadian school to here, here the teachers are very much engaged, and they hold themselves accountable, but they also hold the students accountable for getting the work done. So from that perspective,
Can't hide.
yes, yeah, you cannot hide, and like I said, it's both looking at the students as well as looking at yourself as a teacher to make sure that you're doing the right things to to support the students. So I would say no complaints whatsoever. As far as the education is concerned, the schools are concerned here. I would highly recommend it to anybody.
And then on the tax side, I mean, property taxes in Texas are a little high compared to other states, but they stay local. They basically just go to support the school. So you get that back. And it's not like it's going to the federal government. And, if you live in a nice area, good schools, you're paying Texas, Florida, you don't pay state income tax, but you are paying a relatively higher property tax, but you get the benefit, especially if you have school age kids.
Yeah, that's very apparent here. I would say, what you pay in taxes, you do see it in the services that you do get in return. So from that perspective, I have no qualms in paying taxes as long as you're seeing the benefits, like you said,
Yeah.
right? And that's, like I said, that's very clear that is being done, and you can definitely see those benefits coming through.
What are some of the other, I guess, pros with the US? You mentioned education. I guess probably day to day life in Canada, you didn't see the ROI as much for your tax bill. And anything else that's kind of become evident with the time you've been in Texas, in Dallas?
Yeah, it's something that I wasn't expecting, but it's any interactions we have had, whether it's walking into a bank, or walking, working with a realtor, for example, or making any type of connections. Everybody here specifically is here to help. They're not
Yeah.
trying to hinder your progress.
Yes.
Yes, there's going to be roadblocks, but it's not never, it's never okay. You can't do anything about it. It's always about looking for solutions. How can we help you? Here's how different things in different ways that we can help you. And I found that that was definitely not the case in Canada. If anything, whenever you try to, go down a path where you're starting a new venture, there was a lot of roadblocks put in front of you. And sometimes there were no solutions for it. And here I find there is a genuine care by others who want you to move forward with whatever venture you're trying to pursue. So that was, definitely a surprise, but a nice surprise because, like I said, everybody, is in favor of, you going down the path of pursuing your, whatever you're trying to pursue. And I would say it's definitely reciprocal as well. I help you, you help me, and we help each other. And that is something that is very refreshing. And, I'm not sure it's just common to, Texas or Dallas, but, I definitely have seen that. And, it's something that, is definitely a pleasant surprise.
You definitely get that more in the southern states as well as other some select areas of the U.S. But I think part of it's just a growing. Part of it, I think, it can be attributed a bit just like a consistently growing economy where there's growth and the future looks more promising than the past. And even with competitors, like you can go to lunch, you can pick up the phone, you can see maybe there's something to work on together. Like I know in the in-home care space, one franchisee of another system will meet with franchisees of 3-4 other ones and trade notes. And I don't think there's many places in the world that competitors are kind of seeing how they can grow the pie rather than just cutthroat taking business away from each other.
Yeah, no, I can confirm that. I think even in the short period of time that I have been here, we have come across our competitors, and I think at the end of the day, the objective is not, we try to take business from each other. The objective is how do we go about caring for the patient, for the client, right? And that is if that is your objective, chances are you guys are gonna both come out on top. You will get your fair share of business. And it's not about, I take from you, you take from me. It's all about how can we help each other to progress. Right?
Well said. Aleem, can you think of any advice you would have for people like you on the other side watching this YouTube video, who are maybe thinking about making the move to the States, whether they're coming from Canada, Australia, UK, or elsewhere?
Yeah, definitely a couple of things. The first one would be, the process is, complex and it can be lengthy. So getting help, whether it's, Visa franchise or any other organizations providing similar type of services, get help to walk through that process because I think, navigating through this process, having somebody, hold your hand throughout the whole process can definitely help. Whether and you mentioned some of these, whether it's, preparing the business plan, the marketing plan, working on the application itself, making sure all the documentation is categorized in an organized manner, finding the right immigration lawyer, preparing, through the interviews. Again, there's a lot of processes there, but I think if you work with somebody, and you can get through it. And I think the proof is in the pudding. I think you guys have helped a lot of other clients, and such as myself. So it can work. And the second advice I would have is take the leap. Most people sort of get analysis paralysis and never take the action. I think if you just take the leap, get some help if you need to smooth out the bumps, in the process. But make the change because being comfortable, change will never happen. So yes, the process can be uncomfortable sometimes, but organizations like yourself, can help smooth out some of those bumps. But at the end of the day, make the leap, and I think you'll get through it. And I would highly encourage anybody else to pursue and getting the E-2 visa.
Well, Aleem, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with me and talk to our audience. I appreciate all the insights and sharing about your family, sharing about your business decisions, sharing about life in Dallas. Really appreciate all your kind words, and thanks again for your time today.
No, thank you, Patrick, for having me, and thank you for letting me share my experiences.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Salim.
Thank you.